Welcome to the Strong Life Coach podcast, where we speak life, coach life, write life, and lead life. Today, we're joined in the studio for the fourth time, Kiel Carter. Kiel, welcome to the show.
In the flesh. How's everybody doing?
Yeah.
Great to be back.
How's your day going so far?
So far, so good, brother. You?
Doing all right. I
Good.
think for me, I'm about 99% everything is good in life, 1% kind of rough.
Yes.
But just trying to focus on the good and focus on what I can do about some of the problems that come up.
Man, any day that you're not fertilizing is good to go.
You're not fertilizing?
Yeah. You could be in that dirt, brother.
Hey, that's real.
You know what I mean?
Real.
Yes.
Yeah, life has a funny way of changing along the way. I would like, I often describe myself as have a rose-colored lenses. I see positive. I don't see the glass as even just half full. I have a glass. I have a hand to touch the glass. I have an eye to look at the glass.
Yeah.
But still, there's times when challenges are happening around you, and it makes it difficult to be able to see the glass that way.
Yep.
And I know this is a situation. It's not even in my own personal life. It's just with a friend of mine that's going through a little challenge. But I'm excited for us to be able to talk about something that I think is going to help a lot of people.
Yes.
And talk about emotions. So I want to give you a quote, and I want you to respond to it.
Go ahead.
A real man doesn't cry.
Let me see. First thing I think about when I hear that again. I'll tell you what, ask me again, and I'll give you the straight up answer. It's going to come off the top.
Okay. A real man doesn't cry.
BS.
Okay. Tell me more.
To elaborate on, some of us as men, we try to hold back a lot of things, emotion wise, and the crying is good with bad. I'll give you an example. Let's take the NFL Combine, for example.
Yes.
When you see those guys out there and they're getting their names called, and they've put in all that work, high school, let's go back further than that, little league, high school football, college, and all the effort and the work that they've had to endure and go through,
yes,
to finally hear their name called on the big stage. And anybody that watches the NFL draft, rather, not the combine, NFL draft, as soon as their name is called, man, these guys just start bawling.
Yes.
Because that split second when they hear their name called, everything that they've done and all the work they've put in for it becomes reality.
Right.
And then it was all worth it. And you see family members crying also, mom or dad there, or if it's just a single parent, or, if aunts and uncles there, their support system, no matter who it is, they're sharing the same sentiment, and it's men and women both, because, a lot of times those extra relatives have put in the work to guide that individual, make sure that they were on the up and up, and they were supposed to go the route and walk down that path that they were supposed to go to, and then you have some guys that have just as much talent or even more talented, but decided to take a different path.
Sure.
And so they might be watching the NFL draft, but they're in a house all by themselves in the four walls, and they know their name's not going to be called because the stupidity, the not listening, or deciding to do it their way. And they might be crying too, but it be for a different reason.
Sure.
Their reason is out of frustration for what they should have done. I when my father passed away, when my brother was tragically killed on a motorcycle, that's, at that point in time when you're going through stuff like that, you're not stopping to think, well, real men don't cry.
Right. Right.
It's just a natural reaction. You know what I mean? Now, for simple everyday stuff, I pull up at the gas station and somebody pulls at the pump before me, and I was waiting. I'm not going to go home and get under a sheet, some hot chocolate and some bonbons, and start crying, So that question is relative to the situation that we're talking about.
And what's interesting about it is when I use the phrase a real man, I think about, what does that even mean, right? Or you might think of a man's man, or a masculine guy, or a tough guy, strong guy, muscular guy. But what I've seen is some of the most dynamic, powerful people that I've ever known, period. The most influential, doing the most to help the community, to help people. They've been people that have had the authenticity
Yes.
and the sincerity to be able to shed a tear. And I don't think it took anything away from their manhood. In fact, for me, it almost, and even the people around them, I think there was almost more respect, and
Yeah.
I know we're going to talk about the mass killings later in the show, but I remember when the mass killing happened at the elementary school, and they told President Obama about it, and he had a tear.
Yes.
A tear came down.
Yes.
But I don't think anybody, and I don't really get into a lot of politics, but I don't think anybody looked at it as weakness or he was less of a man.
Yeah.
But I think he was viewed as somebody who cared deeply.
Yeah.
It was even part of his charisma.
And like we were talking about earlier, it's all relative to the situation. You hear that phrase a lot. In what instance are you wanting to use that phrase in reference to? Are you looking at somebody who's going through some stuff and you're on the outside looking in, and the only thing you can do to help them is to say something like, come on, man, real men don't cry, suck it up, let's do this, or do whatever, you know what I mean? Or is it something that you're going through in your life to where you have to say to yourself, real men don't cry, and that might be the reason why you're actually crying, because you told yourself, you know what I mean? It's, you shed some tears, you figure out what you're going to do, and you get up and you go on with life. You can't dwell on what was. You have to figure out what is. You know what I mean? And if what is you getting up off that couch, or you getting up off the floor after you've been crying and figure it out, that's what you have to do. Yeah.
Right. And I think you're onto something powerful when it comes to not allowing the emotions to debilitate you.
Yes.
And not allowing the emotions to prevent you from actions and from taking steps toward your own growth, toward your own effectiveness, and being everything that you can. But you don't ever want the emotions to cripple you.
No, absolutely not.
Now, how have you seen emotions help you connect with people?
A good example is how me and you met. When I started deciding to get back into scripture. When I say get back into it, as a kid growing up, we were at church 4 days of the 7-day week.
Right.
I mean, you don't have no choice, and you go through your life and partying and being single and everything else, and you come to that certain point in time where you're like, you know what, I need to reattach myself to what's important. And when we met and getting together with the group, it's funny how the Word of God can put you in certain situations and speak to you about those situations to where you didn't even think that the Bible was applicable to what you're going through.
Right.
But you'd be surprised how every situation that you may go through is in a passage somewhere in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And once me and you, we got to know each other, through our wives actually at the church, and then me and you start talking and getting together. We both have a love for basketball and sports.
Right.
Combat sports. Well, me more than you. Weightlifting and powerlifting and everything else. You know what I mean? Just being genuine. Those emotions. When me and you got together and we talked about different things as per scripture in the Bible and how it can affect you and help you and everything else, So, some of the things that I've gone through in my life emotion wise, helped me connect with you.
Yeah.
It helped our friendship better because you can see with me, it's no type of, I'm one of the more genuine folks you can meet.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Either I like you or I don't.
Don't have to guess what you're thinking.
No.
You'll just hear it.
No, right off the bat, brother. You know what I mean? So that's always been something for me. I've never tried to hope to God not to be something that I'm not. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know, in the emotions, like we've shared with each other as far as our fathers are concerned, and the tragic way and what happened when they passed away.
Sure.
Whether the circumstance might be different, the actual emotional content that you feel is still the same. You know what I mean? So it's being genuine like that, and opening up emotional wise to be able to sit down and actually have somebody where you find out, well, man, unless that person would have never talked to me, I would have never known he was going through kind of like the same thing.
Yes, that's right.
I mean? So it's helped me in that way.
And you hit this powerful point of, in life, we're going to go through different situations, different circumstances. But what I'm learning that I've seen is there's a finite number of emotions. There's not like an endless amount of emotions where you could be feeling, but when you think about life, hardship, victory, loss, shortcoming, whatever happens in life, it's not like there's like brand new emotions that are created. I did hear about one emotion that was created in the 1990s that wasn't around before, and it was the one of hangry.
I never heard that.
Hanger. When you're hungry and angry at the same time.
Oh, well, if that's the case, I'm having that emotion right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. How can I go fix this emotion?
Right. But what you said though is we have these different experiences and we have different emotions, whether they're shown or not. Out on the outside. So I'll go through sadness, or I'll go through anger, or I'll go through embarrassment, or whatever these emotions are, and I'll have these this feeling and experience that I'm going through. But what I'm learning is the more that I can share that experience and the what I'm going through with other people, we have such a better connection.
Yes, because you're genuine.
You're not faking like, oh, everything's good with me, bro. Like, I'm good. I'm good, 100% good.
Yeah.
But there's that, and then even as a speaker, and I'm grateful and privileged to be able to have different opportunities to speak in front of people often. Yeah. And it's one thing, what I learned is you could give people the most inspiring quotes. You could give somebody 200 quotes in one speech if you wanted to. They're not gonna remember all that.
No.
And I think as Maya Angelou had a great quote, is people are gonna forget what you say. They're gonna forget what you do, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yes.
And as a speaker and as a person who wants to be influential and help people, I'm asking myself that question of, as a speaker and the content that I'm sharing, how can I connect with people emotionally?
Yes.
But it's hard to connect with people emotionally unless I'm aware of my own emotions.
Yes.
So when I'm sharing like about the story of my dad and his past and his suicide, I'm feeling, I know the experience that I had was I felt abandoned. I felt alone. I felt disregarded, unimportant, not special. Yeah. And when I'm sharing those in a speech, and I won't share it with the same energy I'm sharing now, and I know I can feel all of those. I can have that experience, and if somebody's listening, they've also been in a similar experience, and it might not be because they lost their dad. It might be because they lost a job.
Correct.
Or they were rejected from something along the way, and they also felt abandoned, rejected, alone, not loved, and all of a sudden now we're connected. Yeah. They had an emotional experience, and I did. They're different, but the same emotions.
Yes. Agree.
Now, how have you seen your emotions disconnect you from people along the way?
A lot of times I've said in the past, I'm speaking for myself.
Sure.
I never really allowed myself to get close to anybody that would keep me from having to have emotions for anybody. If all I have to worry about is me, then I'm good. And I found out that emotionally, you can tell yourself that enough times to where you actually start to believe it, then you're in trouble.
When you're like calloused over.
Yeah, you're calloused over. You're driving down the street, for example, and you see somebody, a lot of folks are out on a corner, begging for change or let me not even say begging, asking for change. Maybe they've had a hard stretch in their life and they're homeless, and you know, the callous part of me says, you know, man, go get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a center console full of coins.
Sure.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and once you tell yourself certain things like that and you actually start to believe it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, then I've realized from my standpoint that I'm in trouble. So I've had to disconnect from that way. And I catch myself saying that in certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always go back. You know, first thing I say is, you know, Lord, don't let me feel like that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
change
Yes.
my heart when
Right.
it comes time to,
Mm-hmm.
because it's, you know, it's an everyday battle. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the struggles are they're always going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just up to you to, at some point in time, realizing that you don't have to be that way.
Right.
You choose to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You know, open up. And so me being hard-hearted, you know, my wife teases me. She says, I could put you on an island all by yourself and you wouldn't miss me or the kids.
Mm.
You know, and I remember at one point in time, I said to myself, well, I think about you guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When you start going down that road of, you know, saying like, well, I think about you guys, you're telling yourself, you know, are you trying to boost yourself up?
Mm-hmm.
You're actually trying to prove to yourself that you yourself are strong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking in the mirror and telling myself, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can be hard-hearted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the actuality is that, you know, you've taught yourself to be. It's just like hate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nobody is born knowing hate. It's
Mm-hmm.
taught.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Wow.
after a certain point of time, it's accepted.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've chose to accept how you want to be
Mm-hmm.
when you don't have to be. you know?
Right. There's something about, as a guy, I'm aware of people trying to be manipulative with
Mhm.
emotions. Like, and I don't know if you've seen this along the way, but whether somebody's trying to convince you to do something or believe something or think something, and they'll use the emotion of guilt.
Mhm.
Like, to me, like, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like, you can't guilt me into something. Like, if you want me to do something, ask me to do it.
Yeah.
But like, don't be like, oh, well, you're not a good friend if. And I was like, no. I have plenty of evidence that shows why I'm a great friend.
Yeah.
But don't put it like makes me a bad friend. Like, I have plenty of other, you know, people can testify about the kind of friend that I am.
Mhm.
Don't put it about like, you're not a good friend if, or like things like that. I could be sensitive and tell me what you would. It's like for you, but I don't appreciate when people try to manipulate me with my emotions, especially guilt, because guilt doesn't really do much for me.
Like that one time I tried to talk to you into buying those LeBron James. and me and you did the research on how much they weigh, what they look like, the material they're made out of, if it's going to help us on the basketball court. And I went ahead and bought them. You know what I mean? And then I sent you a picture of them. And you were still trying to decide. And you were like, man, I can go buy 3 pairs of other shoes for the same price as
some Hardens,
LeBron
some
James.
KDs.
Yeah, you know, some Hardens, some KD. I said, well, yeah, you know, well, you can, but you'll never have these. You know what I mean? It's not the same, Derek. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, what did I tell you? I said, man, look, just go do it. You know what I mean?
I kept sending you pictures of different colors.
Yeah.
Some
man,
orange
you know,
ones and some blue ones.
After a while, I'm like, does this dude want me to buy them for him?
The funny thing is, you got such a great deal on them. Was it in Corpus?
In Corpus Christi.
And you called me and said, hey, I got a good deal. Like, you want me to go back? And I said, yeah, go back. But then you couldn't get the same deal again when it came to my pair.
Right.
It was like a $15 difference.
The deal was, I got a great deal. You know, I got the military discount, and then they were having a sale on that specific color, the all white ones.
Yeah.
Okay. And I went back for my brother to try and help you out. I was going to get you a pair.
Right. But
the only size they had was in the Fruity Pebble color.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I talked you into, hey man, they're gonna look good. You didn't want the Fruity Pebble color,
right.
But you didn't want me to be the only one with a pair of LeBron James, you know. And you decided to wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I put a lot of pressure on you, man. Sending you pictures of mine. You know what I mean? Talking about how good.
One of the days I went to your house and you were holding it, you were just like, you know, just like caressing it. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? You have this look that comes over your face too when you do it.
Yeah. Derek, you would not believe what these things feel like when they're on your feet, you know?
And I tease my mom because my mom has this, I think she tried to use the guilt button a lot when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And I remember like this one like silly story. But I think she went to the flea market, which she often did on Sunday mornings. And then she would come back and we hadn't done any chores around the house, which I don't think she told us to, but she came back and said, you know, if the house would have been clean, I would have bought you a PlayStation 2. And then I heard what she's saying and I'm trying to like, I've probably always been a thinker like my whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about what she's saying. I'm like, I just thought it was unfair. And I was like, that doesn't seem right. If you want to offer us something, offer it and tell us what we need to do. And then if we don't do it, but then she was just letting us know, hey, you didn't meet my expectation that was never communicated.
Yeah.
And I tease her now that I feel like she had used that button on me. So the guilt button often enough growing up.
Oh yeah.
That I'm like, I don't know if that button got worn out with time. It does not work anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I don't have guilt about things that I'm actually guilty for, but that's the thing for me is if I'm feeling guilty, I want it to be something that I actually did wrong.
Yes.
Not for something that somebody else, you know, I didn't meet some expectation that they never communicated anyway.
Right.
So
I got you. Yep.
I think the other thing too is like the emotion of like when bad things happen. I remember at a track meet, I was a junior in high school, and I signed up to do the high jump.
Mm-hmm.
And so I signed up to do the high jump, but and I was on the JV team, so I was a junior on the JV, so you could clearly I wasn't that great at the event.
Yeah, clearly.
Or even at track period.
Yes.
So if I'm on JV as a junior, it just says something. But so I signed up and I figured, and at the time I could dunk and I could dunk with two hands. So that was something that I was like, okay, well I can jump, you know, I got some hops is what I thought.
Right.
So anyway, so I'm going up and they just put the pole up to do the event. So I'm running up to jump over the pole, but on the way up from the jump, I nick the pole and then I come down on the pole and then it snaps in half. And then so I'm feeling like embarrassed because they had to cancel the event. There was no replacement pole.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So when you look in the history books of the junior varsity track meet at East Central High School from 2003, across the high jump event, it says canceled. And it's because I broke the pole.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
But in that moment, you're like, man, I just want to go hide. I don't want anybody to see me.
Yeah.
I had guys coming up from the other schools saying, hey, bro, are you okay? That was like the worst. Is it demasculating? Emasculating?
Yeah.
Like,
I
felt like, don't ask me if I'm okay.
I had one of those too, and we talked about it before and made you laugh. I was at the gym,
Mm-hmm.
and it was National Bench Day, which if everybody goes to the gym and works out, Monday is chest day.
Monday's
It's just a ritual. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I decided, you know what? I'm going to put these 4 plates on each side up there. I'm going to get this 405 today.
405 pounds.
Yeah, no problem. Done it before.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I had recently come off of a good little layoff where I had let my body just rest. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I worked back up there. You know, I had a new workout shirt on that day, and it just happened to be matching the Jordans I had on. You know what I'm saying? Look good, feel good, be good, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And get all the weights up there, you know what I mean? Knock it out. I'm up to 4 plates. I turn around after I get done, and, you know, I see people looking out of the corner of their eye, you know.
Mm-hmm. You feel kind of
I turned into the Rock then, you know what I mean? I'm giving them the people's eyebrow and everything, you know what I mean? Hey, how you doing over there? You know what I mean? What's going on? Hey, yeah, I'll be with you in a minute, you know? Stuff like that, you know? I'm thinking you're boosting myself up, you know what I mean? The problem was there was nobody in the gym at that time. 6 o'clock, it was weird. 6 o'clock in the afternoon, in there lifting, that I could say, hey man, come and spot, except this one little dude who's about 125 pounds.
Oh man.
And I said to myself, I got the weight. I just need him there just in case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, young man, let me holler at you, man. Yes, sir. I said, you mind giving me a spot? Oh man, I saw you put that on there. I wish I could do that. You know, so now I'm ready to put on another 25, you know what I mean, on each side. So I get down there, you know, and I can just feel everybody in the gym looking at me. I get it up, pick it off the bar myself, because I got a rule in benching. If I can't pick it up off the bar myself, then I shouldn't be touching it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Pick it up and I bring it over. And it felt a little heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying to myself, just go down and back up.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it down and I got about halfway up and I ran into some issues. Okay. And the issues were I wasn't strong enough to get it all the way up. So I asked Mr. 125 a little help here.
Right.
And what I didn't know, because I was concentrating on lifting weight, he was already had his hands on it, struggling.
Mm.
So I'm getting ready to pull him over on top of me. Okay. He's red in the face. So I did end up having to do what they taught us. I rocked it.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped some of the weights off of one side, dropped some of the weights off, and boom, crashed. Weights all over the place.
Oh.
And I get up and I look around and everybody in the gym is looking. But this time they're not looking like, wow, that guy's getting ready. He's really strong. He's going to lift up. This time they're looking at, you fool. You idiot.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So, it's like that commercial. You want to get away?
Yep.
I just felt like going and I didn't go back to the gym for about 2 weeks because I didn't want to be pinned as that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But my emotions led me down that path of thinking that I could do something that at that point in time I had no business doing, because I took about a month and a half off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So. But needless to say, I'm back up to doing it now, so it's all good. You know what I mean?
Let me just slide that in there real quick.
Put that in there for the audience. You know what I mean?
What's crazy about the emotions of embarrassment and even shame is they are the emotions that most make us want to hide, and they most make us want to isolate and be alone.
Yes.
But the thing about it, what I've learned with the emotions of embarrassment and shame is that the more they're isolated, almost the more they grow.
Yes.
And but instead of letting them be isolated and talking about the areas of my life that there might be shame and embarrassment connected with, and being real with a few friends about, hey, this is what's happened in my life, I've seen nothing quite like the connection that comes from that real, authentic conversation about some of the things that I'm embarrassed about,
right,
or that I'm ashamed about from my past, things that I've done. And we all have those. We all have those memories and those experiences. But if we can learn, even in the shame or in the embarrassment, to understand that if we could find trustworthy people who they're not going to go around and talk, just like we talked about the last podcast.
Right.
We're not going to go around telling anybody else about it, but we can create a safe place to land with a few trusted individuals in our lives.
Yes. Yep.
So let's talk about, with everything happening across the country right now, I think an emotion, or probably two emotions that come to my mind, are being scared and frightened for a lot of people. With your military experience, what do you think about the mass killings in America?
I'm glad you asked.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my opinion, and I'm going to give it to you unvarnished. I personally, in my home, when you've been over to my house, okay, probably seen a couple of my trinkets. Okay,
trinkets.
I call them trinkets. Okay, I have an AR, and I have an AK-47. 1223 1762 by 39. The AK-47 was my brother's, who was also in the military. Did 3 tours. He came home and he purchased his gun legally, went to a store here locally, purchased it, as well as I did with my AR. And we bought them because before he passed, he was killed on his motorcycle. We always said that we were going to go pig hunting together, So, as you know, I hunt now, I hunted then. So I bought it for that. Until somebody says enough's enough, I don't believe anything will change until something happens, which I don't wish, which I'm not advocating for, which I'm not giving anybody's idea to go do. But my opinion is nothing is going to happen from these politicians until a tragedy affects them personally. Because the NRA, in my opinion, has put too much money in these people's pockets to be on their side. You look at the United States of everything it's good for, all the diversity, the equality, the freedom, your freedoms, and everything else. What is the one thing that we're known for? These mass shootings. You know what I mean? And while you can't say, well, if you just get rid of the ARs or these assault rifles, it's going to stop. No, nobody said that. But what it will do is cut down on the number of people that can lose their lives when you use one of these weapons. As we've been talking about, as you know, you come to my house and see my pictures. Combat arm, okay? I see no reason why anybody would think that they need to have that weapon to make them feel good or just to show off or anything else. I have one, an AR and an AK. And I must say, if they came and said, we're doing a buyback because we want to get these off the streets, if I thought that giving mine back would help in diffusing another situation or prevent somebody else's, I would give mine back. And that's just not talk. That's honest to God. They said, well, we're doing a buyback, or even if they're not doing a buyback, we're doing a collection or something. I would go willingly to say, hey, I support what you guys are trying to do. You know what I mean? I think that they should be banned. If anybody is in the military, those particular weapons, I got 12 years in military. Those particular weapons, we use them all the time. Very familiar with them. Very familiar with what you can do, with those weapons of what they can do. But everybody who buys them hasn't properly been trained. They don't really know what they can do. They're getting them because somebody else has them and they look cool. It's like a 57 Chevy. You can go put all kind of accessories on it. Hey, look at mine. I got this, I got that, I got this, Until the politicians decide that the money that the NRA is giving them for these weapons to keep all this stuff open, no background checks. I heard Mitch McConnell say when he comes back, they're going to talk about a few things. I think the people that have lost their lives and the loved ones that are left that have to go look at their burial and their headstones are tired of you talking. You know what I mean? And it's on both sides, because the NRA has invested in these folks to either turn the other cheek or not go against them. And it's a shame. Me personally, I couldn't be in politics because I'm too real. I'd end up telling somebody nobody would vote for me because I tell you like it is.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame that we still till today have to be known for this kind of crap with these people getting shot down and killed by these weapons, of mass destruction. They keep saying mental illness. This guy he said he was driving for 11 hours from Allen, Texas down to El Paso and said he got lost. What mentally ill person do you know recognizes he's been driving for 11 hours and he got lost? You know what I mean? When are the excuses going to stop? When does the life matter more than the money that's going in your pocket? And like I said, I don't believe anything will change, unfortunately. They can talk about the background investigations and everything else. The background investigation, that's a start. Everybody needs to have a full background investigation. Folks that are mentally ill, of course, they should be labeled or after they've been labeled and have sought medical attention and they are mentally ill, no, they shouldn't be able to buy a weapon. Mm-hmm. People who have records for other previous homicides or robberies, of course, you can't get those weapons. Mm-hmm. All in all, when it's all said and done, I'll cut this short. When those people were killed, it wasn't mental illness that was passing through their body. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a background check that was passing through their body. Mm-hmm. It was the rounds of that particular weapon. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I just don't know if you could pull off, like the Vegas incident, killing, I think, 59 people, mm-hmm. if I remember right, 59 people. I don't think a 38 special will get you 59 people. Mm-hmm. And if you need protection for the house, that's all you need. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Now, or a shotgun, I
remember that when we were camping out at Canyon Lake and we were in the trailer, mm-hmm. and then I was about to go out to sleep in the hammock.
Yes.
And then you had asked me if they said you said you want that burner for protection, and I said, what's a burner?
You thought I wanted you to go make me something on the grill, didn't you?
You said that gun. What you think? And I was like, and then you showed it to me, and I was like, no, man, I'll end up shooting myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to your point about protection,
yes.
you believe in having that available, but you don't need this advanced gun for protection.
When the forefathers wrote the Second Amendment, you need to realize they were standing there with a muzzle loader. Mm-hmm. Okay? One-shot muzzle loader. Mm-hmm. They didn't have an AR-15. Mm-hmm. They didn't have a 100-round drum.
Oof.
Okay? With this. So, being in the military, when you look at the cartridge 223, I remember when I went in the service, the very first time we got issued our weapons. Mm-hmm. The very first time we went to the range. I'm used to watching Rambo and all these movies, and they hand me my magazines, and we start putting the rounds in them at the range. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying to myself, like it was yesterday, I picked up that bullet. I said, "You got to be kidding me! This little thing." Mm-hmm. Until they started explaining how much power this little thing has.
Yeah.
And what the power and the amount of powder that's pushing that. Mm-hmm. And the tumbling action when it hits you. Get hit in the bottom of the leg and it coming out the top of your shoulder.
Wow.
It's a tumbling round. So, it's just a lot of things. And we won't get into it because you didn't ask me to come up here and deliver you an armory survey of what it is. I know, but, you got me started on this subject. I'm sorry, folks. But I just think that I think that's there's three things that need to be done. They need to be done in sequence. You need to start with the background investigations. Universal, no matter what. And I'm an owner. You need to ban them. Mm-hmm. Period. Point blank in the story. Mm-hmm. Okay? You just think about this and then we'll go on. I'll let you ask the next question. This guy in Ohio, there was 9 people who lost their lives. Mm-hmm. The police, they say, engaged this guy. From the time he started shooting to the time they engaged him was like 20 seconds. 9 people dead in 20 seconds.
Wow.
Okay. 9 folks dead in 20 seconds. Just imagine if he had a little 6-shot revolver or even a handgun that had, capacity of 10 in 1. Mm-hmm. Do you think he would have been able to get off engaging the police and killing 9 people in 20 seconds at the same time?
Wow.
Okay. It's common sense, but until they get the NRA out of those folks' pocket, nothing will change.
Mm-hmm. Got you. And the truth is, those tragedies are, they're horrific.
Yes.
Right. And we just don't. We hate to see families torn apart, mm-hmm. and we hate to see the the devastation that could come from such foolishness.
Yes.
So as we wrap here, I know I have one question before we bring it in for a landing, but so we talked about a variety of emotions, talked about embarrassment.
Yes.
We talk about shame, talk about fear and fright. We even talk about really indignation that we can have toward the mass shootings.
Yep.
And then let's talk about the pride in parenting. What makes you proud when it comes to being a parent?
Just getting up in the morning time and looking at your children and realizing that they are from you.
Mm-hmm.
The joy of raising a child, whether you adopt them or whatever the case may be. Myself personally, I don't know of any other way, because it's only myself and my wife
Mm-hmm.
and our children that we've had together, and getting up in the morning time and seeing the smile on their face, and then just what you do as a kid. Kind of hard to remember what you did as a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, but
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to relate when you look at your children running around doing crazy stuff, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying, man, I hope I wasn't like that when I was a little kid. 9 times out of 10, you're probably worse.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, just seeing little things like that. I remember when my daughter, she plays basketball now,
Mm-hmm.
and she's 10, and I got her into golf. I introduced her to a bunch of different sports,
Mm-hmm.
and then I want her to pick which one she likes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to force anything on her. You know what I mean?
Right.
Pick which one you like, you think you'd be good at, and let's go with that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll support you 100%.
Yes.
When she was practicing putting in the house, so she went downstairs and she said, "Dad, I want to practice putting." I said, "Okay, go ahead." So she's upstairs, and I hear the ball hitting the walls and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "Uh-oh." I didn't want to stop her,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to yell upstairs, calm down a little bit with that putter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
So she runs downstairs, and I hear her in the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
and then I hear some plastic like bottles. So
Mm-hmm.
she came downstairs and got an empty water bottle,
Mm-hmm.
cut it about halfway down, and was using that as her little hole
Mm-hmm.
in the green, something that she could putt into.
Right.
You know what I mean? She was serious.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Did you just make you something to putt?" She said, "Yeah, I want to try and put it in this cup." I said, "Come on." So we went upstairs, and in the hallway, she puts the cup in the middle of the hallway, and she goes up and she lines up a putt. And I said, "Okay, let's see if you can make it in there."
Mm.
Very first time, dude. She putts it. It tracks straight and goes straight into a water bottle.
Oh, let's go.
I play golf all the time. I tried 10 times after that and couldn't get close to that. Here she is, first putt, and it rolls right into the water bottle. I could not believe it. You know what I mean? So, you just think about little stuff like that, man, and
Mm-hmm.
and you grow up and you see your kids, the joy it brings on their faces. You support them and everything else, man. It makes you feel good as a parent.
Yes.
It's
one of those areas where you see the seed that you planted when it comes to this activity, this sport, this hobby for her, that she may not have participated in otherwise.
Yes.
But the influence that you and Christina, your wife, have on your children, you're giving them these opportunities, this exposure to be able to participate in golf.
Yeah.
And then seeing her have this passion for it as well, the passion to want to try it out, to create her own hole with the water bottle, and then to be able to to knock it in there. It's a special thing.
Yeah.
I know I relate with 6 years ago, I was actively involved in our prison system here in Texas, in the Department of Criminal Justice. And I would go and I'd be a motivational teacher in that space, and I'd go to elevate them, encourage them, build them up, motivate them. And so I was going for a period of time, and there's a lot going on in my life. I was working full time. Of course, I was newly married. I think I was engaged and then married, actually. And then I was in school as well. So a lot was happening. And then ultimately, I knew I needed to pull back some of my efforts volunteering in that capacity. I volunteer in other capacities.
Right.
But so I was going for a period, a couple of years, from I think it was like 2013 to about 2015, 2016. Mm-hmm. And I stopped going, and I focused on other areas. But one of the things that makes me proud is seeing these guys committed to a changed life on the inside, and then them come out into the free world, to come back into the community, and introduced back into society, and then they reach out to me, and sometimes you ask, I have asked myself, am I making a difference? Or were my efforts effective in what I was doing there? And this past week on Monday, one of the guys contacted me and just let me know that he remembered me, lessons that I was sharing back then. And he just calling this with gratitude and thanking me for what I was doing there. And then I was like, yeah, I mean, I was just encouraged just to hear from him. And I was like, hey, we'll connect. And I got a chance to connect with him today. And it was a special moment for me. And I think, again, I'm not a parent, so I don't know the pride of a parent, but I know the pride of seeing your efforts to invest in other people and then remember it and come back with gratitude.
Yes. Yep.
So we covered emotions today, emotions in manhood. But to bring it in for a close, how are you feeling about the Eagles in their off season?
So, for all those who don't know, diehard Philadelphia Eagle fan. Okay. My parents are from Pennsylvania, and my dad's actually he was born in Baltimore, but moved to Pennsylvania. My mom is from Pennsylvania, Pottstown. Yeah. So we grew up in the house with the Eagles, and they had their first preseason game last night. They had some good and some bad. I feel pretty good about them this year, where they are at with the additions they've had. Miles Sanders, a running back. Howard coming over from Chicago. The wide receiving core is a monster now that they've added D-Jax. We've got Goddard for tight end, and then we still got Zach Ertz, who's a beast. My only concern is, can Carson Wentz stay healthy? I think as long as Carson Wentz stays healthy, I personally, there's some good teams. So I'm not saying we're going to walk.
Sure.
Because there is no walk to the Super Bowl anymore. Unless you're in the AFC East, division, and you got the Patriots. Jets, Miami, please wake up, do something about that guy, okay? We gave you a blueprint on how to beat Tom Brady, you know what I mean? So the thing about it is, I like where they're going, the direction they're going. It's just, can Carson Wentz stay healthy? If the dude can stay healthy, the offensive line can keep him upright, then I don't think it's anybody in the NFC that would knock us out of the Super Bowl from getting there. I think once it comes down to it, I think there's 5 teams in the NFC to me right now that look like they could all be in the same boat as far as contention wise. And those are Philly. I'm going to say Atlanta. Okay. I'm going to say the Rams. I'm going to say the Chicago Bears, but Mitchell Trubisky's been looking like dog dump so far in the preseason. So there's no telling. But just on their defense, I'll give Chicago a nod in. Okay. And last but not least, in the NFC, if Cam Newton can somehow pull a good season together, man, I think those 5 teams are teams to watch out for in the NFC.
All right. Look at you.
What I mean? So
putting some names out there.
Well, I mean, it's that grew up watching football, played football, had some experiences at that level. I don't even want to get into that. Okay.
Hey, a podcast coming soon.
Yes, a podcast coming soon, when I can deal with that emotionally about talking about it, we'll leave that one alone for
I was
today.
wondering if it would pop out. We're talking about emotions, it could slip out, you never know.
No, I don't, I want to be able to, I don't want to crawl to my car, when we, what I mean? Realizing what happened, But I think those teams will come along. But I tell you what, I have a sleeper team in the AFC.
Who's that?
The Cleveland Browns.
Oh, okay.
The Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns. Okay.
You know what I mean?
We'll have to come back to this podcast in a few months.
Yes, we will. You know what I mean? and, we won't come back to it if my team is 2-5. We'll leave it alone, you know what I mean?
Well, good. If you're tuning in, we're with this is the Strong Life Coach podcast, where we speak life, coach life, write life, and lead life. I'm here with my brother Kiel Carter, and we're signing out.
Signing out. Good to be with you, brother.